when you start to implement this and you start to see the positive changes in it, and you realize, that the emperor's not wearing any clothes. We're looking at naked emperors that are not doing anything for your health. Okay, then it starts to turn into a very empowering system. And look, if you're new to this and you're really sitting there going, why should I listen to some little dude from Oklahoma who's not even a doctor? Well, you can look at it going, okay, he's changed his health around. Yeah, but he's one, but I'm not alone. There's other people that are out there talking about the same thing. The more people we've got, like yourself, talking about the positive changes that have happened to us, then it doesn't become evidence, but enough stories become compelling for at least people to start investigating. And when they start to pull back the curtain.
Kirk, how did you find carnivore?
Good question. It actually started, the whole health journey began when I was 50. I used to weigh about 300 some odd pounds, on 10 medications every day. Was not exactly a beacon of health, but then something really bad happened. I was at a New Year's Eve event, and I started seeing flashing before my eyes. Went to go see my eye doc, and she said, I got bad news for you. You got something, macular degeneration growing on in the back of your eyes, and we're going to have to start putting shots in the back of there. And I'm like, I don't want needles in my eye. What do I do to avoid that? And she said, well, you need to lose weight. That's all she told me. And nothing about metabolic health, nothing that I was pre-diabetic, just lose weight. So I went to Weight Watchers, and that didn't work. I was 50 years old, and frankly, for the first time in my life, I could not lose weight just doing calorie restriction and walking. So right at that time, the Cleveland Clinic had just finished doing a study on 5 years on bariatric surgery. And it was about 75% effective at getting people to lose weight. I was like, okay, sold. But wait a second. Not everybody succeeds at that. So I spent a lot of time actually studying people that failed after getting 70% of their stomach cut out. They still couldn't lose weight. Okay, who were those people? Well, they were all people that didn't take it seriously. They thought it was a magic wand instead of a tool. But I went ahead and had bariatric surgery, and I lost about 70 pounds on it. I was happy. Everything was fine. And then I started, like most people who've had bariatric surgery, kind of eating still a standard American diet, and started gaining weight back again. And about that time, I ran into this guy by the name of Dr. Stephen Finney, who was talking to Low Carb Down Under, and he explained metabolic health for the first time. And that's when I started really studying keto, low carb, really tried to understand it. And once I understood that concept of metabolic health, I was all in. I mean, I completely cleaned out my cupboards, threw everything out, went to the grocery store, bought all this new food. And I will tell you, that was one of the most terrifying moments of my life when I looked at all the food that I was now going to be eating, because I was taking the American food pyramid and turning it upside down. And I'm looking at this pile going, oh my God, this is either going to kill me. According to my government, this is going to kill me, or I'm going to get healthier. And frankly, I don't really know which. I just am going to do an experiment. I'm going in. And that's when I went low carb. And that was about 8 years ago. So I haven't looked back. For people who say that low carb diets and keto is unsustainable, I've been doing it for 8 years. And I've kept my weight pretty constant. But the thing that got me to go to carnivore was Dr. Berry. And then I ran into Dr. Baker, and they're talking about it. And I wasn't completely sold on it, but it sounded intriguing. And then along comes COVID. And frankly, I didn't want to stand in line with a bunch of people buying toilet paper in the United States. So I figured I could buy a month's worth of meat and just try it out for a month. It was wonderful. I mean, it was simple. It was delicious. I liked it. And I ended up losing 10 more pounds from, when I switched to low carb, I lost about another 15 pounds. When I switched to carnivore, I lost an extra 10. But because I was already fat adapted, I was already eating low carb. There was no adaptation process to going carnivore. I was getting more muscle mass. I was getting stronger. I felt more clear. I didn't have any really major health problems at that point. By that point in my journey, I was off all medications. Um, I was already, my blood pressure had gone pretty much to normal. Everything was fine on low carb, but it just got better on carnivore, and it was a lot simpler. So after that, I started buying my own cows, started meeting ranchers, found a really great regenerative rancher, and it's delicious, very easy. Buy a cow a year. That's pretty much my shopping. I've got an egg lady and I've got a cow guy, and that's it.
That sounds awesome. I've got an egg lady and a cow guy. I love it.
So
um,
that's from the carnivore side, but the
hmm.
overall, I started a YouTube channel because I realized there's a bunch of people that had bariatric surgery. There's over 100,000 people that have it each year. At usually about year 3, they start to regain weight. And a lot of people don't realize that after you've had bariatric surgery, you can still go ahead and go carnivore. You can go low carb. I've proved it. And I've been doing it now for quite a period of time, now over 8 years. And, all the health markers just get better when you do that.
Is there anything that you have to modify because you've had bariatric surgery? Like, do you have to eat more regularly or anything like that?
I have to do it. I've met one person that's had bariatric surgery that can eat 1 meal a day. There's a lot of people that are carnivores that just eat 3 pounds of meat all in one sitting. I can't do that. I can do about a pound at one sitting, and that's it. So I break my meals down into 2 a day. I eat first meal usually around 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning, and then another meal around 5 or so, and that's it. But that's more than enough food in those 2 meals to keep my weight very constant, keep my strength level up, and keep the energy level up. But it's like everything else. You've got to make sure you get an adequate amount of energy every day, and every now and then I'll check and see how much protein I'm getting. I'll weigh things for maybe a couple of days just to see how things are. But for the most part, yeah, I know what I'm eating. I mean, it's 4 eggs in the morning, half a pound of meat, and then about a pound of meat for dinner.
Between low carb and carnivore, has there been much of a change as far as how you feel? Or is it really just that it's simpler, so that's what makes carnivore better for you?
A good hunk of it is significantly simpler. I mean, with when you're in the keto world, you have a tendency to chase macros. You want to pay attention to, how many ketones you're putting out, and worrying about fat ratios and all that type of stuff. With carnivore, all you're doing is you eat until you're full and you don't eat until you're hungry. That's much easier. And from, just the way my lifestyle works, it's very simple, and I like that. And it's pretty much complete nutrition. I don't have to worry about anything else. So it's, from a simplicity standpoint, it's great. I will say this. I think it creates a lot more brain clarity. I think that definitely comes to the table. Strength gains have been awesome. I never had veins on my arms, like, the bicep vein and all that type of stuff. I've never had that my entire life, and I've got that now, which is kind of cool. I mean, I'm 61 years old, and I'm getting stronger than I was really in my 30s, which is really kind of nice. I like that.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything, and it looks like I've been in the gym. This is amazing. I love
Yeah.
this. Yeah. So, it was, I guess, 8 years or so when you experienced the flashing before your eyes on New Year's Eve. Has that's never happened again?
No, that's what my my eye doctor, when I finally went back to see her, was shocked that I'd lost that much weight. The way she described it was, "Yeah, I tell people to lose weight, they never do. You're the only one who did, and I'm the only one that didn't have to get the shots in their eyes." Everything cleared out within a year. All the signs of macular degeneration. Oftentimes, one of the first signs of type 2 diabetes is going to be your eye doctor that's going to see all the gunk in the back of your eyes because those veins are so fragile. And the fact that everything cleared up, that it looked like a very healthy eye within a year, is just a testimony to just being metabolically healthy.
During your journey, have you ever had a feeling like, "Oh, I really miss this food," or, "I wanna go back and, I'd love to eat this particular dessert," or whatever, any kind of craving?
Not usually, no. But what was interesting was I work part time over in Europe, and whenever I go over there, I will. I'm not going to say no to those desserts. They look good, and I'm there for a week. I will try them. And what I've noticed is they are significantly different than the United States. In the United States, they taste like sugar bombs. There, they actually taste like the actual food. And, I'll have a little bit of the bread while I'm over there because it just tastes better than it does in the States. And what was interesting was I lost 6 pounds while I was over in Europe eating a different diet. I was still mostly meat, but eating just even a little bit of that stuff was fine as long as it's, pure food. And when you get away from the vegetable seed oils that we have in the United States and the added sugar and the ultra processing, that makes a big difference.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Um, but I think honestly, the thing that caught my attention there is when you said you work part-time in Europe. I'm kind of imagining, 3 hours a day, I'm in France, and then I'm back.
No, no, it's
Um,
it's virtual, but I have to go over there every now and then. So, I'm kind of like you. We're everybody works all over the world nowadays.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's kinda cool. I mean, if there's a place you gotta visit semi-regularly, I mean, Europe's a nice place to visit, right?
all the food is fantastic. It's pure, and one of the great frustrations of living in the United States is to watch the demise in health. And you see it probably more so at the airport than just about anywhere else, where 60% of my country in the United States is obese, not just overweight, but flat out obese. 60% or more of this country is either type 2 diabetic or pre type 2 diabetic, which are essentially the same thing because we're just horrible diets. The medical system will not show people how to fix it. And that's really the reason why I created my YouTube channel, was to help people understand you don't have to, your doctor isn't going to get you healthy. The system is not designed to make you healthy. You've got to learn all that on your own. And it's fairly simple. Once you understand the basic concepts of insulin resistance, reducing blood glucose, adding in a little activity, and from that, you're just going to get better sleep and you're going to get better rest almost naturally. And once you start making these simple changes, you're going to see dramatic changes in your health. I've
Mm.
lived it. I've been living it for a long time. I think I've proved it's pretty sustainable. And, it's kind of nice. I don't have to buy new pant sizes every couple of months anymore. I've kept the same waist size now for going on 8 years, which is fantastic.
So, how do you feel about that? Like you mentioned at the start, how when you changed your diet, you're kind of turning the pyramid on the side, and you were thinking, what am I going to do here? I'm either going to get better or I'm going to kill myself,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? So, how does that make you feel when you realize that basically everything you've been told is incorrect, or the doctors aren't there, or the doctors, the food industry, everyone is not there to make you healthy. You really have to take that responsibility into your own hands.
Yeah. It is actually when you start to implement this and you start to see the positive changes in it, and you realize, that the emperor's not wearing any clothes. We're looking at naked emperors that are not doing anything for your health. Okay, then it starts to turn into a very empowering system and thankfully, we live in a time when you can figure this stuff out for yourself. I mean, I've pretty much self-taught because of books by Gary Taubes, Dr. Michael Eads. There's a bunch of, Dr. Westman, Dr. Stephen Finney, Dr. Jeff Volek from The Ohio State University, Ben Bickman. There's some great guys out there that put out some great information. It's not, I don't work in medicine. I'm basically, I work in politics, but I can read numbers. I can read studies. They're available online. I can figure this stuff out pretty darn quickly. It's not as hard as they make it out to be. But when you realize that, look, the media, guess who purchases most of the ads on the TV news in New Zealand and in the United States? It's Big Pharma. There's the ones, and when they pay for all the ads on the news, count them up. When you're watching the news, look how many ads are pharma. Now, if the news department starts attacking their big revenue source, they're going to lose half their income. So they're not saying anything about getting you healthy. Look at the ads in the newspaper. They're pharmaceutical or fast food or sugar snaps or whatever. I mean, and he who pays the piper tends to call the tune. So they're going to have a subtle form of control over the news media. The government subsidizes in the United States all of our processed food, corn, sugar, all those oils that we use in all of our ultra processed food are subsidized by the federal government, and the federal government cannot spend money attacking things that it funds by law. So it isn't going to get you healthy. There's regulatory capture from big pharma. I mean, you think about the statin drugs. Statin drugs are $1 trillion industry. Nobody's going to say anything bad about them because it's $1 trillion industry. That's bigger than most world countries' economies, just with one drug. And once you start to realize that, it's kind of like the movie The Matrix. You're kind of like, okay, I took the red pill. I can see all this stuff for the first time. Now you're comfortable going out, taking them on, and you don't mind. But boy, I'm telling you, it is. And look, if you're new to this and you're really sitting there going, why should I listen to some little dude from Oklahoma who's not even a doctor? Well, you can look at it going, okay, he's changed his health around. Yeah, but he's one, but I'm not alone. There's other people that are out there talking about the same thing. The more people we've got like yourself talking about the positive changes that have happened to us, then it doesn't become evidence, but enough stories become compelling for at least people to start investigating. And when they start to pull back the curtain and they look at exactly who is selling you on, Tufts University, for instance, put out this weird food list that said Fruit Loops was much more healthier for you than an egg. idiocy, absolute idiocy. But when you see who's paying for it, you realize, okay, there's the problem.
Yeah, spot on. So how do you feel? You mentioned being at the airport, and that's probably one of the places where you can see, the obesity problem up close. But how how do you feel like when you're there or when you're at the supermarket, if you go into the supermarket from time to time, do you ever feel like walking up to people and saying, "Look, so just stop buying this stuff"?
Well, I'll give you two fun stories. One was actually during COVID. I was grabbing a steak over at Aldi's, and I didn't follow the arrows. And this lady got up in my face and said, "You need to follow the arrows." And I looked at her cart, and she had nothing but cookies and cakes and sodas in there. And I just kind of looked at her and I just said, "Oh, I think somebody needs a hug." And I started chasing her around the Aldi's for a little bit. So I have fun with it. um, but the other side of the coin was the scary thing was I was in the hospital a short while ago, and to walk around and look at people in a heart hospital is terrifying. Um, where I saw this guy, he obviously was a type 2 diabetic, morbidly obese, and he'd already had one of his legs amputated because his artificial leg was off to the side. And he is sitting there eating a quote unquote heart healthy diet of Cheerios and apple juice. And my heart just went out to him. I wanted to say, would somebody in this place please tell him that he's boosting his blood glucose level and only making his type 2 diabetes worse? From that perspective, it's frustrating. And, probably that's probably about the same reason you started doing a YouTube channel, because like you can try to explain to your closest friends, but you become a nuisance in people's lives if all you want to talk about is people, what you're eating and why. So I created the YouTube channel as therapy for me, so I could tell other people without bugging people that didn't want to hear about it.
So on that point, has anyone around you been interested enough to kind of say, "What are you doing and how do I do it?"
Yeah, I mean that's I get lots of people they people that have known me for over a decade that have seen my health transformation go, okay, yeah, what did you do? And he basically explained, look, just eliminate these three things and you're going to get 80% of the result. Okay, get rid of the sugar, get rid of the ultra processed food, get rid of the vegetable seed oils. You're 80% there. You don't have to go all the way. And if you want to fine tune it, talk to me. And some of them do. My significant other has multiple sclerosis, and she has noticed, since we started dating, she saw where I came from. She knows what I do and has bought into it and has seen dramatic improvement in her own health. And she was already pretty darn healthy. She was a yoga instructor and had gotten rid of the wheat and all that stuff a long time ago. But it's only seen dramatic improvement in her health, and she sheds that too. What do you guys eat? We do meat. And once people start to realize that we're serious, and that's kind of a tough sell. I mean, not everybody wants to buy into that, but once they see that change, you can start helping other people, and it's fun and rewarding. There's some people that I know that have really made some dramatic health changes just by getting rid of the ultra processed food.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about your channel? What kind of videos you got on there, and what do you got coming up?
Well, part of what I do is, first of all, is talk to people that have had bariatric surgery, but that's not all of it. The other part is, we talk about metabolic health. We talk about the how to, there's a way you can save a lot of money if you're in the United States, by basically getting healthy, going low carb, because you don't have to pay for regular insurance. I've got what's called a catastrophic policy that only kicks in over $5,000. So, because of that, instead of paying $900 a month, which is about the average in this country, I only pay $200, because I don't need to see a doctor on a regular basis. I don't have to pay for all those pharmaceuticals on a regular basis anymore. I don't have to see a regular doctor. I can do my own lab work. There's a lot of stuff you can do to take control of your own health. And that's what we also talk about in there, is how to save money by avoiding the healthcare system, to help you realize, hey, here's the scams that they're trying to sell us. Here's what that Tufts University thing is. Here's why low carb, why eating meat is not going to give you diabetes, and try to explore those things. And I try to do them in about 15-minute segments a couple times a week that really show the studies, that there's evidence behind this. This isn't just my opinion on it. This is why I believe this is what's true. And there's real science behind it. A lot of it is actually from the federal government. They just don't spread the news on that stuff, but it's there. And if you look for it, my God, the government actually agrees with my position. They just won't tell you. So, which keeps the YouTube censors at bay. When you actually say that, this is a CDC study, or Center for Disease Control, then they're like, well, we can't censor you because you're using a government study.
Yeah. So we can find you by going to the Bariatric Carnivore.
Yes. Okay. So there's about 300 some odd YouTube videos on there on a whole host of different subjects. The ones I've been talking about lately were my trip to the heart hospital, which is something that was not typical for most carnivores, but I was very concerned. I thought I was having a heart attack. When I went, my pulse was racing. It was over 150 beats a minute. Blood pressure was going through the roof. Something was happening, and I was afraid it was a heart attack. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I was completely wrong. Turns out it was a blood clot in the lung. Now, before anybody jumps to any conclusions, no, I didn't get the jab. So that wasn't the reason why I got a blood clot. I'm pretty sure it was because I was still doing testosterone replacement therapy, and that caught up with me, and that's probably what caused it. But when you get a blood clot in the lungs, what that can do is it can trap up a lot of fluid in there, and the right ventricle, where you're supposed to be exchanging oxygen into the bloodstream, gets blocked up, and they ended up having to shock that valve to get it back in the rhythm. Once that happened, all the fluid cleared out, heart rate went back down to normal. But what was funny was how quickly I recovered. Okay, I've had a heart rate over 150 beats a minute for maybe 3 days. And it gets shocked back in the rhythm. The doctor comes walking into my room, after that event, says, how you feeling? I'm jumping up going, let's go home. I want to leave, and he's never seen that before. They don't have that many healthy people come into the heart hospital, but once that trauma was over, I'm healed. My heart rate's back to normal. I'm ready to go, but they've kept me one more night, but that's okay.
And as you said that, I'm just thinking, and you've probably also got in the back of your mind thinking, like, I want to get out of here before you try and feed me.
Actually, surprisingly enough, because I went to a physician-owned hospital, they actually had what they call a cafe, so I could get steak. I was very happy about that. I was very impressed. I couldn't get salt, but thankfully I brought my own. So I'm the guy that smuggled in salt into the heart hospital, and but it wasn't bad food. The problem was they offered a lot of junk, and that's what the other people were eating. But it was possible to eat. You couldn't get eggs, but you could at least get steak.
Oh, nice. So what is for someone watching who's thinking about doing something to lose weight or get the diabetes under control or something like that, what is your message to them?
Well, number one is this is kind of surprising. When you do bariatric surgery, what they put you on is a special diet for at least 2 weeks before you have it, to get rid of the fatty liver. And it's basically a keto diet, very low carb. And within 2 weeks, anybody that has got fatty liver, it goes away. And I actually lost a bunch of weight on the 2 week diet before I had the surgery. And I was sitting there going, why am I doing this surgery? I'll just stick to this diet. This is doing great. Unfortunately, I'd already paid for it, but at that point, so I was kind of felt like I was committed. But that diet that you do to get rid of fatty liver will actually take care of most of the problems if you just eliminate ultra processed food, and you stick to single ingredient foods. Basically, if you're at a standard grocery store, if you just walk around the edges, not in the middle, but you go to the vegetable aisle, go to the meat counter, get some eggs. If you just eat that real food, frankly, 90% of your problems are going to go away. And the way you can test that, and I always really strongly suggest that in the United States, you can order your own labs in any state in the country. So get a fasting insulin level, just find out what your A1C is. And if you just do, and also check your triglycerides and your HDL cholesterol. That ratio should be 1, but it's usually most people like me, when you start off, your triglycerides are going to be like 200 something, and your good cholesterol, the HDL, is going to be like 20. Frankly, you want both of them to be about 60, but, just do those basic things. Go about 6 weeks or so, just pretty much eating no carbs, and then recheck it. And you're going to notice that all those basic markers of metabolic health are going to improve pretty dramatically. I mean, when you start off, they're going to be horrible. Don't worry about it. That doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow. I mean, nobody dies because of high triglycerides overnight, but over 20 years, it will kill you. But when you look at that, you can start to see the improvement that will happen very quickly. And I've got a video that, goes over that initial blood work that you want to do just to get a baseline. Once you get that, you're off the races. I mean, that's because you can see within a few weeks the immediate results. When you start off, I was training for a 5K race when I first started off low carb, and I noticed that, during the day, just normal stuff, I felt fine. I felt really good, very clear. But when I tried to work out harder, I definitely saw a drop in performance. Well, it took me a little while to figure out that that's normal because you're not fat adapted yet. It takes a little while to train your liver to be able to create energy from fat. So, you get two major energy sources. You're either going to run on glucose or ketones. If you do not eat for a couple of days, you're running on ketones because you have burned out all your glucose. So your heart actually runs 24% better on ketones than it does on glucose. One of the reasons why I think I was able to recover so quickly, from that blood clot, is because my body was running on ketones. My heart had a lot more efficiency because that's what it was running on. So realize that there's a bit of an adaptation time. You're going to see some drop in athletic performance, but after a couple of months, you will be 100% right on ketones, and you will have more sustained energy. It used to be, I'd want to do a 5K run or something like that, and I would want some sort of snack kind of in the middle of even that shorter race. But the last 5K I did, zoom, I started off and finished it and didn't even think about eating. Matter of fact, I did it fasted. I hadn't eaten all day. The run was in the morning. That wasn't time for breakfast yet. And, the last meal I had was 18 hours before the race. Didn't eat them. I mean, you can run on your own fuel stuff all the time. I can go 2-3 days without eating, and it really doesn't affect me in the least because I've got enough excess body fat.
Very nice. So Kirk, I'll link to your channel below, and people can check out you at the Bariatric Carnivore. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Thank you so much.
And thanks for all you do. Keep it up, man.